Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape, vinyl tape,
carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneurial Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. Man, I've got some good news for you today, so get out your pens and your papers. You're going to want to hear this story. Welcome to the podcast, Teanice. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you?
I am good. As I said to you earlier, all softball questions, but I want to give you the platform because I know people need to hear about you. So my very first question, and please forgive me for asking this. Why do we as Black folks use GoFundMe as an insurance policy for a death burial? Why do we do that?
Oh, my goodness. Why do we that? That's your question? That's my question, too.
Okay. I've got the questions. You've got the answers. All right.
We shouldn't be using GoFundMe.
Yeah.
We should be using life insurance. And I don't know how we got to the point where we're using GoFundMe because if you recall, I know I do, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, they were using life insurance. I know I remember that man coming to the house to pick up the checks. So yes. I don't know how we got away from that at all. And
you know what's so funny? I remember that too. I also remember it wasn't that expensive. It might have been $1 or $1.25, something.
You know, I think the part, and I went through this personally when my grandmother, one of my grandmothers passed away. Those policies back there were not the same,
yes.
Or there more availability, I should say, today than those policies were back then. Because I do know, like when we buried my grandmother, she had a policy but found that it was a decreasing policy. So by the time she had actually passed away, the face value of that policy wasn't what we thought it was going to be.
Wow.
And so maybe for some of us who that's the tradition, we know grandmother paid for it or granddaddy paid for it, but then we didn't have enough. Maybe they think that's still the same thing today. But to that end, I guess my expertise or the thing I would impart upon people would be to do your research on the companies and the policies that you purchase because, you know, life insurance is different depending on where you get it, who you
yes.
get it from, the type of policy and what you're looking for.
Yeah, but I guess the thing that strikes me as upsetting and why don't we do it is the same people that do a GoFundMe page, right? Just a few months ago, they're in Cancun. You know,
yeah.
So like, you know, you spending $4,000 or $5,000, you have to save for that, you know, just save for the other part of that too. So I mean, if I'm wrong, correct me.
No, you're not wrong.
Okay.
It's about priorities, Kevin.
Yes. Yes.
It really is about priorities. Some of us spend $7 on a cup of coffee, but we won't go out and protect the ones we love for the expected thing that is going to happen at some point in the future.
Yes.
And a lot of times we do go after life insurance and we look to purchase it, but it's after the fact when we've experienced the death in the family, then
yes.
everyone wants to come out. So it's part of the planning process. I'd say to people, listen, you came in here and you got insurance to protect this car. Who's going to get the payout if something happened? And it's going to be I'm not going to say a name, but it's going to be some finance company, or the same thing with your home. It's going to be some mortgage company. But what happens when something happens to you?
Yes.
Who protects your kids and make sure they can stay in the house and things like that.
Yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way. So now that we've got that out of the way, who are you and how did you become an agent, an independent agent? How did you do that?
Who am I? That's a loaded question.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess the short version of that is what most people don't know is I'm a Southern girl whom I'm actually from Georgia, but I grew up in Camden and graduated Camden High School, went off to college, came back and probably worked 7 to maybe 10 years in the real estate investment industry before becoming a State Farm agent, or become affiliated with State Farm, I should say.
Yes.
So I worked for State Farm for 15 years before I became an agent. So I kind of grew up in the company, learned different departments, moved around a little bit, and that was a good thing for me. And then I studied the insurance itself. Becoming an agent or becoming an entrepreneur, I think it chose me rather than I chose it.
How so?
I had my licenses 5 or 6 years before I became an agent.
Yes.
And I did that because I was out in the community. In one of my roles at State Farm, I spent a lot of time in the community connecting organizations that were aligned with our philanthropic objectives to the company.
Yes.
And I would get a lot of questions simply because I worked for State Farm. People would always ask me about insurance and policy. Legally, I couldn't talk about that. So I went and got my licenses.
Wow.
And then by the time I realized that I was talking about insurance and I was doing things that the agents could do, should do, I said, I could do this myself for myself.
Yes.
And so then I started on the track to actually become a State Farm agent.
All right. Now, let me just add a super duper bonus and plug for State Farms. So as you know, I serve as the executive director for Minding Our Business. And a huge, huge shout out to State Farms because in previous years, they have been strongly supportive of the efforts and works that MOB has done in the Trenton community. So, Teanice, thank you. State Farms, thank you. And so hopefully you'll like this podcast as well.
Yes, so, awesome, yes.
So big shout out and kudos to State Farms. Now, I guess my next question is, and let's break down, why did you want to become an entrepreneur? Was it something that you thought that you would never achieve, or you thought this was out of reach? What did you ever see yourself becoming such?
You know what? As I grew up, I guess, and you go, what do I want to be when you grow up?
Yes.
Becoming an entrepreneur was never on my list.
Okay.
It was never on my list. I think I kind of fell into it. Certainly, if you ask any friends or family, I've always been a bossy little girl. So they figured,
yes.
Today bossy equates to leadership skills.
Yes.
So it was definitely something that was not out of my reach. But I opened my agency in 2013.
Yes.
My late husband passed in 2008.
Okay.
So in the 5 years preceding that, I think I just made a lot of decisions. I did a lot of finding myself. And there were some things he wanted to do that I challenged myself to do because he was the one that wanted to open a business, not me.
Okay.
But also it was the community for me.
Okay.
There were some things that I saw that was missing in the community, specifically the educational piece.
Yes.
And I was heavily involved with the community efforts of State Farm, as you know, because I partnered with MOB.
Yes.
I had connections in Trenton, establishing relationships with Mercer County Community College, with Homefront. I worked with JA of New Jersey doing, presentations for kids in like PJ Hill Elementary, stuff like that. So there were some pieces that I saw that was missing that I felt like that was the piece that I could give. I have to honestly say, I've always told people it was never so much about the money for me as much as it was about, really making sure that communities that I felt were left out got
Okay.
the education that they needed,
Okay.
which is how I ended up in Trenton.
Okay.
So that's what happened for me. And now at this juncture, it's all about the freedom
Yes.
of owning my own business and setting my own goals and expectations and working very hard for me based on what I feel is important, opposed to giving that same energy, not to knock corporations or companies, but, I'm working for me and doing what I love to do for a community that I feel like I'm personally invested in.
Okay. Now, this is a double question. You're in Camden. You could have easily opened up a shop in Camden, but why Trenton? Why move? Why move to Trenton? Why set up a shop in Trenton? I mean, we're grateful, but why?
Well, the process doesn't exactly go like that. And
Okay.
I grew up in Camden. I had moved from Camden years before. I raised my kids and my family in Burlington County.
Okay.
Still very connected to Camden, involved in community efforts down there as well. But there was an opportunity in the company, and again, I'm coming from within.
Okay.
And so I saw what the opportunities were in the company, and there was an opportunity in Mercer County.
Gotcha.
It wasn't in Trenton, but once I was approved for the opportunity, in general, I made the decision to place that office in Trenton.
Yes.
And it was because, again, those things I said before, the community, but also as, a girl growing up in Camden, of course, I saw some of the similar characteristics from the community that I grew up in and what the needs were. And so since that opportunity was surrounding the Trenton area, I said, you know what, this is the best fit for me.
Awesome. Awesome. And we're glad you're here. Now, as you're making this choice, what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome wanting to be and striving to be this entrepreneur, this successful entrepreneur?
Well, overcome. I don't know that I've completely overcome it all at this point.
Okay.
A lot of challenges go along with becoming an entrepreneur. I mean, it's a risk, right?
Absolutely.
So, obviously there was the financial component. Making sure that you are prepared financially for successes or setbacks.
Yes.
Then, in my area of entrepreneurship, I'm a business owner. It's just not me that's, running around trying to get this business. So I actually employ people. So it's managing people as much as it is running the business.
Yes.
And as I said, running the business, not managing the business.
Yes.
I've managed businesses for other people in the past, but running a business is certainly a whole lot different than managing a business.
Absolutely.
So, but my biggest challenge, I would say right now, really is in my particular role is, human resource management, finding the right people for the position, so to speak.
Yes.
I'm a person who wants to develop people. I don't want someone to just come in, do their task, and get their pay and go home.
Yes.
As much as I'm educating the community, I want to educate and develop that person who may not have ever done this before, and they will learn something as well. So for me, it becomes like a 360 effect. But finding people who actually want to do this,
yes,
or think they have the capacity to do this has been the hardest part for me.
Okay. Now, I guess my next question, so within the industry and within this larger piece we call the city of Trenton, how has the community in the industry embraced you as an African-American woman, being an entrepreneur?
Yes. Well, certainly Trenton itself has embraced me.
Yes.
No problem, so to speak, there. I mean, it's a community I'm familiar with. And then I'm one of those people, too. Note, I said, I'm a Southern girl who grew up in the city, raised a family in the pseudo suburbs is what I'll call it. So,
okay.
I'm able to build relationships with all diverse people from all walks of life. So that has not been a problem for me. In terms of the industry, I have to honestly say I've never had a problem there either.
Okay.
Growing up in State Farm, when I entered the doors, didn't know anything about insurance at all.
Okay.
And I was trained. I learned the environment, the industry, and every place that I've gotten since that first day back in 1997, because I'm coming up on 25 years in the industry.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. I've gotten on merit. I'm one of those people who don't talk about things I don't know.
Okay.
So once I came through the doors, whatever they allowed me to learn,
Yes.
I learned. So I got professional, courses, classes, designations that kind of back me up. So I would say it is very hard to discount me as an African American woman in the industry, or as a woman or a person in the industry, or not, because I dotted my I's and crossed my T's.
Wow. I love that. Okay. So I'm going to jump to this question real quick now, because I normally don't ask this question until the end. Having said that, having heard that, what is, I guess, in the crystal ball of time, where do you see yourself 3 years from now? Where do you see your employees or an employee moving towards the same track that you did?
I sincerely hope so.
Okay.
I have asked employees, do you want to do this? Or I've interviewed with people, and of course I say to them, where do you see yourself 3 to 5 years from now?
Yes.
But what I always say to those who are in my employ, or those who have gone on to other opportunities, is that when you come to work for me, no matter what happens, you will learn something here. You will leave here with more information, with more experience, with more knowledge than when you walk through the door.
Yes.
So, I pride myself on the number of people who have come in and they've gotten their licenses, and whether they've stayed or not, they are employable now.
Okay.
Okay. No matter what. For myself personally, 3 years from now, I'll still be doing this.
Okay.
I'll be doing it at a higher level, but I'll still be doing this.
Amen.
I love this. I love this choice that I made. It's still the greatest opportunity in the world as far as I'm concerned. I raised my children on it. I call them little baby state farmers. They know insurance in and out.
Yes.
And then the other piece of that is that the freedom of owning this business and what State Farm allowed me to do even as an employee in the community asset has allowed me to also use those passions in for my other hat, which is in my nonprofit responsibility for an organization I'm involved with. So I will definitely still be doing this.
Now, funny question. How come when you're out there in the community, you don't bring Jake from State Farms with you?
Well, you know what? Jake is in the office.
Okay.
And funny thing is that you bring that up. Jake will be traveling on Friday, actually. Jake is co-sponsoring an event at the Big Easy this coming Friday.
Okay.
So Jake does travel when he gets the opportunity, but just not with me personally.
Got you. I'm like, yeah, I want to see Jake. Okay. So now do women, once they find out you've got your own insurance outlet company business downtown Trenton, do they seek you out to become a mentor?
I talk openly with people all of the time. So, in my mindset, I don't go where they ask me for advice. Now, I will tell you that when the first couple of years when I was there and people would come in and they would just be in awe, I guess it was me being naive to think that, wow, this was a big deal.
Okay.
So yes, now, like I said, I mentor the people who are with me every single day.
Gotcha.
My team members, I don't even call them employees. They're team members.
Yes.
We're a team. So we're mentoring every day. And then I have mentoring responsibilities in my nonprofit life.
Yes.
So I'm always doing that.
Okay.
But like I said, when people come in, they sit down and maybe awe is too strong a word, but they just can't believe to see it's me behind the desk, or once they realize I'm not just a manager, I actually own the business.
Yes.
And we start to talk. So I guess there is a lot of that going on, but I'm not a very formal person, I guess is the word.
Okay.
I'm not a very formal person. I'm just kind of laid back and we're just going to talk.
Okay, cool. So now do you see in the period of time that you've been an owner operator, have you seen like any social injustices within the industry?
Within the industry?
Yes.
There's social injustice everywhere.
Okay.
Okay. And of course, there's, in the last couple of years, things have been magnified
Yes.
because it's always been there. I Wow. I've said this a lot lately, so I'll just say it again to you.
Okay.
I'm one of those people who I keep my head down, but
Got
I
you.
won't be disrespected.
Got you.
But no, I haven't personally witnessed, but of course, social injustice is going on everywhere. I will
Absolutely.
tell you though, at that State Farm though, as a company and my experience with State Farm
Yes.
has always been one at the forefront of, diversity and inclusion.
Okay.
So from a personal standpoint, from being inside and now being an owner operator,
Yes.
I haven't encountered that. But again, social injustice is everywhere, but it's not something that I've personally encountered in my walk.
Okay. So now let's talk about why we're really here. Let's talk about some of the products that you offer and some of the products that may be helpful to individuals, particularly the African American community.
So we'll get out the way the fact that everybody walks in the door for auto insurance, right?
Oh, okay.
Because it's required
Yes.
in every state that you have that basic liability insurance. And then we will discuss with you some of the needs that you have, and you make the decisions as to those coverages, right?
Okay.
And then, of course, they call the umbrella fire insurance, which is your homeowners, your renters, and, your business insurance as well falls under that umbrella, which is very important that you protect the needs for those businesses as well.
Yes.
But, those are things, not to discount them, but those are coverages or insurances that people say I need or I have to have because either the state, a finance company, or a bank or mortgage company said, you know what, before I give you this, you got to get that.
Yes.
What I'm most passionate about is life insurance.
Yes.
Because that's the one that, as you alluded to earlier, we don't just call up for. That's the one that once someone passes away, we either start a GoFundMe account, or everybody starts calling up going, I need a quote for insurance because they were the ones who had to come up with the money to bury someone who did not have it.
Yes.
Life insurance is part of a planning process. Most insurance is, or all insurance really, is about protecting against a risk of something happening. And in most cases, it's an unforeseen event. Well, dying is not an unforeseen event.
Yes.
Dying is expected. So we know that's going to happen. So life insurance is something we should always be planning for.
Yes.
So that's the one where, people really need to get behind more. And I had a personal experience with that. My children's father, he passed when my kids were 10 and 11 years old.
Yes.
And that's why they know what insurance is, and specifically what life insurance is, because, there came a point in their lives where, they actually thought that things were going to change because there's now one person not in the household that they depended on for X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
So that's the thing that we should be considering on a daily basis, especially new families, especially people with kids, especially those of us with older parents.
Yes.
One of the things I did when I became an agent was I went to every single family member and asked them, do you have life insurance?
Yes.
And for anyone who said, mind your business, I said, don't have your hand out if something happens and you need money.
Wow.
And that weren't so many that said that, but you will get those who go, wait a minute, what you in my business for? And I'm kind of like, listen, I'm not in your business. I'm just trying to make sure if something happens, all of our ducks are in a row.
Yes.
So, that would be the product. But, business insurance, workers' compensation insurance, we are a full service insurance agency.
Okay.
So I'm a financial services professional.
Yes.
And so all of those types of insurance are those that are sold and serviced at my business. But again, as you heard, life insurance is the one that I hold very near and dear to my heart.
Okay. 2 questions. What's the difference between term and life?
The way I explain the difference between term and life is you either rent a house or you buy a house. At the end of the day, you still have a roof over your head, and that's the most important thing, right?
Yes.
But with term insurance, when you think of renting, you enter into a lease agreement for a certain amount of time.
Yes.
And when you come to the end of that lease, your landlord may say to you, well, I'm going to increase your rate. Term insurance works sort of the same way. You might have a term policy to 10 years and that price be fixed, but at year 11, it's going to go up.
Yes.
The other thing that it compares to with renting is when you move out, if you decide, okay, I'm not going to renew my lease, you move out with what you came in with, no more, no less.
Yes.
Whereas when you look at whole life or buying a house, you get some additional benefits in that. Yeah, you have a roof over your head, but every time you make a payment on that home, you're building equity in
Yes.
that property.
Yes.
Same thing with the whole life policy. You're building cash value. There may be some dividends, which is a whole nother conversation to get into, but you're definitely building cash value. So it's more of a living benefit
Yes.
that you may be able to draw on during the term of your life, as opposed to only being able to, or someone, your beneficiary, being able to draw that money after your death. So they're both good types of insurance. Now, when you say, well, why do I choose one over the other? Well, as an example for myself, as a, younger person with, just getting started with a family, I started with, let's say, a certain amount of term insurance,
Yes.
price-wise, that was affordable. Because, I wanted to make sure that if, something happened to me before my children became of age or something, it's like I need a large amount of money and I need to make sure the house can be paid off, the college can be taken care of, all of that stuff, because I'm not going to be able to handle it. And the cost of that higher amount of coverage would just have been out of my reach if I went whole life, because of all of the benefits locked into that.
Yes.
But at some point, at least for a State Farm policy, you can take part or the entire amount of that term policy and actually change or convert it over to whole. And because now you want to, maybe you don't need as much,
Yes.
and also you want it to grow those benefits over time. So, those are the two basic differences between it. Again, both are good types of insurance. It all comes down to what are your needs. And that's what we do as insurance professionals, is we need to sit down and determine what your needs are.
Yes.
Anybody can come in and say, I need a policy. But my question is, well, what do you need the policy for?
Yes.
And we're going to sit down and figure that out. Yes, we know we need to bury you, but do you have kids at home? So are you trying to make sure that if something happens to you, they get to do X, Y, and Z in your absence? Or your spouse, do they pay all the bills at home by themselves, or are they counting on, your compensation? And so now you're no longer in the household. So we need to also make sure that we, plan for being able to have that piece of the compensation in there, or someone else going back to school because maybe they were a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home husband, and now they need, 2 or 3 years to get themselves together to get back to the workforce. So then we need to set aside money for that. So there are a lot of variables that go into determining what those needs are.
Yes.
And then we work backwards to figure out what will fit into your budget, to just make sure you have something in place, and, be able to work from there.
Now, thank you for sharing. Now, do you ever do what we've just talked about in a limited workshop format type?
I haven't done it in a while, but yes, I do.
Okay.
And that's a great thing to do, to be able to just get together a bunch of people and talk about life insurance in general.
Yes.
You definitely want to have an individual discussion, but I know a lot of people are just don't, like I said, the education piece is missing, and they think that the policies or the cost of the policies are out of their reach.
Yes.
So ideally, yes, having a workshop where we can talk about it in general, and then people can decide for themselves whether they want more targeted one-on-one information is definitely optimal, definitely something that I am open to.
Awesome. Now, I don't know if I asked this question. I apologize. Why did you decide to open up your shop in downtown Trenton?
Downtown, well, Trenton was my choice,
Okay.
period.
Okay.
I didn't know where it was going to be in Trenton, but once I realized the opportunity to open a business was mine with
Yes.
State Farm, and I made the decision Trenton, and a lot of it had to do with the connections that I had already made there with organizations like yours, like MOB, and
Yes.
I had worked in the past with, I can't remember her first name, but Ms. Hawk over at Mercer County.
Yes.
And so I was like, I'm definitely doing this based on the community relationships, the needs for the educational piece in the community. And funny story is, one weekend, my children and I literally just got in a car and we rode around the city.
Wow.
And we were riding around the city, and I was telling them stories about when I was a student at Rutgers.
Yes.
And we catch the 409 from Rutgers home to Camden, and I was visualizing these stops along the way.
Wow.
As I drove through downtown Trenton, and we came across a couple storefronts, and
Yes.
they're like, that one, mom, things like that. And eventually, the next time I rode through, it was with a good friend of mine who
Yes.
is in a leadership position at State Farm.
Yes.
And the building that I'm in right now was actually for sale.
Wow.
And she said, but Teanice, you still call the number. And I called the number and met with the owner of the property, and the rest, they say, is history.
Wow. So you actually own the building too now?
No. I don't own the building.
Okay.
But because the building was for sale,
Yes.
I saw that as a deterrent to me being able to rent a space in the building.
Got you.
Plus,
Understood.
it's a corner, it's on the corner. It has
Yes.
all that window space. I'm
Yes.
kind of like, he's selling the building, and it's like prime. Like, I
Yeah.
can't do that. But she was like, she's like, no, Teanice, you got to call. You got to. Her name is Debbie Wilson. Love her to death. She's in State Farm. But she said, no, call, step out on faith. And I'm a girl who steps out on faith a whole lot.
Yes.
So I called and I spoke to the owner of the building, and we met, and he was like, yeah, we have some plans to sell, and it was kind of like, if we end up selling, we will still make sure you are covered.
Okay.
And so, that was coming over 10 years now. So
Wow.
we're good.
Wow. That's all right. So,
Yeah.
so now with the platform that we have here, is there anything else that we would want to know about you in terms of how you strive every day to continue to be a successful entrepreneur? Is there anything else you want to share with us?
I guess I think we covered a lot.
Okay.
But I just think that being an entrepreneur in general,
Yes.
that we should never forget our why.
Yes.
Because you're always going to have ups and downs, hills and valleys. Maybe you're not always going to make the amount of money that you had projected for, or maybe, I said that me finding the right team members, that may be an issue. So there's always going to be something that you have a setback that you may say to yourself, oh my God, why did I ever get into this, right?
Yes.
But remembering that why, or knowing that why, and sticking to it, that will get you through each day.
Gotcha.
My why has evolved over time
Okay.
to include some other things. But my why at its core is still the same. It's kind of what's in it for me. And, I have that clearly defined in my head. And as long as I stick to that, it doesn't matter what hill, valley, up or down comes.
Yes.
I'm always able to reset my clock
Yes.
and keep it moving. So
Now, do you have any notion or desire to open up a office in Camden?
that's not my choice, but of
Okay.
course,
Okay.
that's a company plan.
Okay.
Those things are way above my pay grade.
Got you. Okay.
But Camden is still, it's still my city. I still have connections there, and specifically as it relates to my it's not my nonprofit, but I'm the vice president of the Rainey Day Foundation,
Yes.
which it is of Camden, for Camden, by Camden. That's the network at its core, and it's that organization basically is to mentor young people, to prepare them for the future, whether that be college or trade school, to make sure that they are prepared for the decisions that they're making.
Okay.
And that organization was started by a good friend of mine I graduated Camden High School with. It's actually named for her, Rainey Day Foundation,
Okay.
Lorraine Curtis. And she, that was her baby. And she allowed me the opportunity to be involved with that. And it's become a passion of mine. So where I cannot run a business in Camden right now,
Yes.
I'm certainly very, very involved in giving back to that community because I was completely educated there prior to going off to college. So
Awesome.
that's my give back. That's my give back to Camden through Rainey Day Foundation.
Awesome. Now, one of the things that I find so interesting, and I've seen over the past 2 years because of this pandemic, I've seen a number of women just accelerate through looking at and moving forward
Isn't it awesome?
with entrepreneurial opportunities. Why do you think that is? Men have taken, some opportunities, but the women, man, are accelerating like you wouldn't believe. Why do you think that's been such for that in that 2-3 year period? Why was that? Why is that?
Well, because as women, when things get tough,
Yes.
we rise to the occasion.
Awesome.
Is there any other way for me to say that?
No, it's a good.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. That's it. You close the door on that one. Yeah. No, I mean, man, I've seen so many women I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I think that the other thing that happened during the pandemic, for those who could not get out to go to a 9-to-5 or go to the office, they just had so much time to reassess where they were.
I mean, we are traditionally women. We're handling everything at home anyway, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Whether we are stay-at-home moms or we work outside the household or we own a business,
Yes.
we are traditionally the ones who we handle the finances, run the house, all of that, right? So now you put us in this condition where we have to sit home all the time.
Yes.
And we don't have outlets, but we have to do something with these kids and
Yes.
all of that. And again, we just say, wait, this is not going to be my circumstance. This is not going to hold me back. We've got to do something different to elevate this situation. And so, like you said, women were starting businesses at home that are now flourishing as we come. Well, we're not out of the pandemic, but that are flourishing. And you saw a lot of that simply because it's kind of, it's ingrained in us that, again, when things get tough, we rise to the occasion. We will not be shut down. And
Absolutely.
so I'm excited to see that. So proud for the things that have come out of this situation because, that is life. Life comes at you and you've got to be able to respond to it in a positive way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Teanice, this has been fantastic. Nothing, all questions that you could handle, right? No problem. Right?
I hope so. When I hear it back, I'll know.
You were so nervous. Like, what are you going to ask? No, these are all softball questions, but I wanted to give you the platform to speak your mind, to be heard, and to tell the real story of who you are.
I appreciate it.
Have you done that?
I think so. I believe I have. You got to be assertive. I believe I have, Kevin. I appreciate you.
Teanice, you did fantastic. Listen, so we want to give a big shout out to State Farms again and all they do in this community, Trenton, New Jersey community and beyond. Thank you, Teanice, for setting up your office in Trenton, and thank you for believing in Trenton as you continue to do your entrepreneurial and philanthropic work. Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me give a big shout out to State Farm, too,
Absolutely.
Because in August, I will celebrate 25 years affiliated with State Farm Insurance, and in January of this coming year, 10 years as an agent for State Farm. So
congratulations.
Thank you, State Farm, for the opportunity.
Yes. I think I got one of these buttons here. Is that on? There you go. Yeah, hand clap. There we go.
Thank you so much.
Listen, Teanice, you've been fantastic. Continues blessings and all that you do, and let's talk and text later on.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.